So hello and welcome to this interview with ex-NASA astronaut Sandy Magnus. Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Nice to meet you. So we're going to kick off with some questions about your time in space. So what is the ideal route for an individual to get involved or to go to space, become an astronaut?
Well, there's actually a bunch of different routes. If you look at the biographies of a lot of the astronauts, we all have a very different sort of a background, but the key is to have some kind of schooling in science, engineering, technology, things along those lines. Although some people take a medical path. We have several astronauts that are medical doctors.
So when was the first point you're like, I want to be an astronaut?
Actually, I was in middle school, so 11, 12 years old. Just the idea took hold of me, and I just I want to go do that. I decided that I should try for it. Right? You never know what's going to happen. It seemed like such a remote possibility, but I didn't want to look back on my life and go, wow, I wonder what would have happened if I would have tried to be an astronaut.
What did you fear the most about going into space?
I didn't fear anything about going into space. Think about it. It's something I wanted to do since I was 11 or 12 years old, and then finally I was 36 when I finally got to go. And so I wasn't afraid. I was actually very excited because finally.
What was the most surprising thing about your time in space? When you got up there, what were you surprised by the most?
How quickly I adapted. It's amazing, you worry when you go the first time, you worry about what it's going to be like to be in zero gravity and can you function, because the way the work plan is designed is just you have to get there and you have to go, and you really don't want to not feel well or not function exactly on top of your game when you get there. And so I got there and I was like, wow, this is normal. This feels great. I feel like I've been here forever, and I just immediately adapted into it. And
Did it take you longer to adapt when you came back to Earth?
Yeah.
That's weird, that sort of quick adaptation into space, but then you come back, it's like, oh no, this is normality, but I have to get back used to it. That's
because gravity is horrible.
Yeah. On Earth there's all the politics and things, and then it's almost set aside, and everyone just comes together and we go to space.
Absolutely. That's what's so powerful about it, right? Because it shows you that when we have a common goal and we've got the will to achieve that goal, we can pretty much accomplish anything. Yeah.
So sort of following on from that, if you had the chance to go to Mars, would you take it?
Yeah, I think so. A lot depends upon the mission.
Yes.
And if I felt I was doing something useful, but it'd be kind of cool to step on another planet, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. How do you feel about the Dragon capsule bringing all the transport to the ISS back to the US? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because in the US we're in a transition now. In the shuttle era, the government owned and operated the shuttle, so they controlled everything. It was their vehicle, and they said who could go on it and what it was going to do and so forth and so on. And so when we retired the shuttle, the government decided that instead of owning and operating the vehicle, we were going to change the paradigm and have companies build vehicles that we were going to contract services from, kind of like a rent car or a taxi, right? And so now Boeing and SpaceX both have these vehicles. And the interesting thing is, because they own those vehicles, they can go sell those services to other people. And so if I'm a drug company and I want to do research in space, I can go to SpaceX or Boeing and say, hey, I'd like to take your vehicle. So you'll see now this era where it's not just government astronauts that go into space.
So coming back on the last shuttle flight, how is that feeling, sort of the end of the era?
Yeah, we really tried hard to make that mission a celebration of all of the amazing accomplishments that the shuttle program achieved in its 30 years. It was very sad, though, to see it go, but strategically the government had made this decision that we are ready to move beyond low Earth's orbit, and the shuttle was designed only to stay in low Earth orbit because of the way it was built and the way you have to service it. And so it's kind of like, it's time for the family to get a new car, but you still love your old car, but it's time for it to retire.
So something new, got a different thing to do.
Yeah, so it was a little sad, but it was also, that vehicle did so much more than what they anticipated it was going to do. You design it, you think you're going to do X, and you end up doing so much more. After Columbia, they made a decision. We made a decision that whenever there was a shuttle on the launch pad, there was going to be another shuttle within 30 days of being able to launch so that it could rescue the crew in case something happened. And so each shuttle served as a rescue vehicle, because as they were coming next in line, the next mission was a rescue vehicle for the mission before it. Because we were the last shuttle, flight, there was no rescue vehicle.
How did that feel?
The plan was that we were going to stay on space station and come down one at a time on Soyuzes.
Oh, okay.
So there was a rescue plan, but it wasn't everybody come down at one time. So one person would have come down at 3 months, one person would have come down at 6 months, one person would have come down at 9 months, and one person would have come down at a year. So there was a rescue capability, it just wasn't a shuttle.
Loughborough is sort of a world leader in sports subjects here, and obviously you have to exercise a lot in space. Did you do a lot of exercise before your training programs, before you went to space?
Yeah, I've actually exercised my whole life. I grew up playing soccer.
Okay.
And I played soccer up until I was 45. And so I've always been you have to be a runner to play soccer well, right? So I was always a runner, weightlifting, swimming, yoga. It's just my natural lifestyle. And you'll find with a lot of astronauts, their natural lifestyle is they tend to do some sort of sport. And so that was my sport.
It seems to be a common trend that astronauts have a lot of different qualities, be able to do lots of different things in sport, maybe like music, and then also your engineering, obviously. What's the sport regime like in space?
So we have 3 major pieces of exercise equipment. First and foremost is a treadmill. And so that gives you good dynamic loading on your body as you're running on the treadmill. We have an exercise bike. So that gives us good cardiovascular workout and get your heartbeat going really fast. And we have something called a resistive exercise device, which simulates weightlifting.
Of course.
And so it gives you static loading. And between those 3, you basically have exercise 2 hours a day. Usually treadmill or bike, always resistive exercise.
Hello.
Hello.
How delightful to meet you, Bob Allison.
Hi, Sandy
I'm the
Magnus.
Vice Chancellor, but in your language I think that means President. At least that's what Raphael Reef at MIT tells me. So welcome to Loughborough University. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
And I can say that the day is always like this at Loughborough University, or at least we organise it like this for VIP guests. Let's say that.
Thank you very much. I'm enjoying it very much, actually. It's nice and sunny and warm, and it's a lovely campus.
So tell me, can I ask you a question you probably get asked all the time?
I'd be happy to answer.
When was the last time you were up there?
July of 2011. I was on the very last shuttle mission.
Were you? Wow. So there was something about that really being a historic moment in time then as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was a little surreal. It was an honor to be a part of the last shuttle crew because, of course, it's going to be marked in history. But we really tried to make it about the program.
Our students, we have a total student population here of about 17,800. But as a proportion, we have more engineers and scientists than any other university in the UK. And I'm proud to say we are one of the top 3 universities in the country for women going into science and engineering.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Well, that's
Congratulations.
Very kind. We have to work really hard on that, as you'll imagine. When I heard from the senior team at Rolls that you had kindly said you would come over, I thought, I can't think of someone that is more iconic for the university than that. No, seriously, I'm not saying this just to be nice to you. It's for 3 reasons. Number 1 is there is a real challenge for young women still believing that the sorts of things that we can offer them in terms of future career paths in engineering is the right thing for them to do, and they need role models, and you're the perfect example of that. Number 2 is, although I suspect it wasn't quite Rolls-Royce that got you into space, there is something about travel when you're getting away from terra firma where they're absolutely at the moment at the centre of that agenda for the whole world. And then number 3, we're all also very proud to welcome special people to the campus, and I think I'd class you as a special person as well, so it's really nice to see you here.
Oh, you're very kind, and I think the partnership between companies and universities is really important because it helps the students kind of understand why they're learning what they learn, and they get those access to those hands-on problems that helps them sort of connect with the material a lot more strongly, and I think that's really key. And as far as young women, I find engineering really fun. I love the problem solving. I love the fact that we're creating new things, and so getting out and talking to students about that and exciting them about it is really important, especially the young women. And interestingly enough, when I decided I wanted to be an astronaut in middle school, I picked physics as my route because I didn't know engineering existed, because I had no exposure to it, because the teachers don't know it. The counselor, I didn't even go to a school counselor. I was like, I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm studying physics all the way through to my PhD, then I'm going to apply. And then I discovered engineering, I thought, oh, that looks like fun too. When I was in college, I discovered it. So we don't do a good job of getting that down into middle school and high school about, hey, this is engineering, this is what it's about, this is why it's fun, this is why you should think about this as a career. whether you're actually a female or a male at that point, right? But the peer pressure thing, I run into that when I talk to young ladies as well. And every time I have a conversation with a young woman and it's like, oh, I can't do math, or oh, that's not what girls do, it just makes my brain blow up, because it's like, I am one of those people. I love math, I love science, I love engineering problems. And this is fun, you should come do this. Don't let other people tell you what you can or cannot do, or should not do.
So I was determined to ask, I was trying to think of one that you wouldn't have been asked before.
Okay. All right.
One is, have you ever met anybody from the Flat Earth Society and what you said?
You know, I'm trying to think if I don't think I've met someone from the Flat Earth Society, although I've gotten questions on, you know,
right.
How do you know the Earth is round? It's like, because I flew around it. I was up there, I saw a cute tweet from the Flat Earth Society one day, and it said something like, we have members all around the globe.
So we all know that it's quite typical when you're in space for your body to deteriorate quite quickly, right? But like, do astronauts feel that their mind or their psychology getting a hit when they're in space?
Well, first of all, if you exercise every day, your body does not deteriorate. So after about 2 weeks, calcium will start to leach out of your bones, you start losing minerals and things like that, your muscles start atrophying. But again, I exercised 2 hours a day when I was on the space station for 4.5 months.
Oh.
I came back exactly the same.
When you were in space, did you ever have a moment where you may have like been looking at Earth and then you might have thought there's no possibility of getting back?
No.
No. You were
No.
always confident, especially even on that last mission.
Yes.
Well,
Because we have, I mean, the Soyuz rescue vehicle was always there, and the shuttle was docked. No, I never thought that I wasn't going to come back.
why have missions to the moon stopped, and do you think they will return soon?
So definitely they're going to return. There's a lot of collective unity building up about going back to the moon and using that as a staging point to go to Mars. The missions stopped because the way the missions were framed at the time in the United States was a race with the Russians to get to the moon. And those missions were not framed as going to the moon and staying at the moon and doing something. And so the political will disappeared after we had achieved that goal.
It was just to get there.
It was just to get there. And so now when people are talking about going back to the moon, it's more about, we're going to go back to the moon and we're going to do X. And so there's things we're going to do there, there's technology we want to test, we want to do a proving ground to go to Mars, and so it's not just let's go to the moon to say we've been to the moon.
So what experience of sexism have you received being in a very male-dominated industry, and what are the challenges and opportunities you might have faced?
You know, I get this question a lot, especially from young women who are thinking about going into engineering. And I've run into early in my career, not at NASA, but earlier in my career, I've run into men who either have never worked with women before, and so they weren't quite sure how to do it. And not necessarily that they were malicious, they were just not.
Yeah, it just wasn't quite.
Just wasn't in their head.
Yeah.
And I've run into a few who are like, women don't belong in engineering. And so my advice to young women especially is, don't let anybody else tell you who you are or what you should do. If you want to work in the science and engineering fields, or you want to work in the space field, you should do it.
Yes, definitely.
And don't let all these other people tell you that you can't. I have generally found my colleagues, both male and female, to be fun to work with. I've really enjoyed it because we all share that passion of spaceflight. And really when it all comes down to is, are you competent? Are you a good team member? Do people like to work with you? And do you approach your work with a professional demeanor? And that's really, at the end of the day, what is the most important thing.
So what are you doing now after leaving the AIA?
So I left AIAA after 5.5 years. I took some time off to travel, and now I'm just starting to get back into things. I still do a lot of volunteer work for AIAA, and I'm going to be doing some speaking and consulting, and just look around for fun projects to work on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Wonderful to interview you.
No, thank you.